คุณลีน่าสวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ Thank you so much for joining the program today.
My pleasure.
First of all, I have to ask about the role of Asian women. We have, there are certain stereotypes, there are certain views and obligations that are stuck to the role or the picture of an Asian woman. How does one overcome such obstacles?
It's a really good question, and one that I'm asked a lot.
Yes.
Being one of the few Asian global leaders at this level.
Yes.
You know, my advice would be to be confident and have a lot of self-esteem. Because I know when I was growing up, even my mother would say, don't be so ambitious as a woman who will marry you. You know? So in Asian cultures, and I'm generalizing, there is a tendency to not encourage women or girls to really be ambitious and think about what they can do. So one of the first things we have to learn to do as Asian women is to dream big.
Dream big.
To really have big dreams about how to change the world, to have big dreams about how to follow your passion. So I encourage all women, and particularly Asian women, to really be confident and dream big. That's the first step to overcoming some of the stereotypes. The other stereotypes that exist are that Asian women are not assertive, may not speak their mind, may not put up their hand for a new initiative,
We're
new
quieter
project.
than
Quieter.
Yeah.
So so one of the things we do in Uniliver is we have a program with INSEAD, which helps build, which is the Uniliver leadership program for women particularly.
Wow.
And we invite all our senior leaders, senior female leaders for the program. And I see that many of the Asian leaders who come for it, Asian female leaders, talk about the challenges of expressing themselves, of expressing their point of view. Because they feel it might not be heard, they feel that the bias in the room is encouraging them not to speak.
I see.
And the only way to tackle these biases is to acknowledge that it exists and then find a plan to work through it.
Find a plan to work through it. Now,
so for example, I used to keep a note. Every time I spoke up in a meeting, I would draw a small line. And at the end of the meeting, I would count and see, did I really speak up enough? Did I count 5, 2, 3, 0? How many times did I open up a meeting? Yeah, just to encourage myself to speak and say a few things and not be quiet. Over a period of time, I have learned to be bold and courageous and speak my mind without
so you've
any
got
reminders.
more little marks on your notebook.
And then I would count at the end of the day saying, did I speak up enough?
Wow,
was there anything?
That's an interesting strategy. The environment in Asia, as you mentioned, seems not to encourage much of debate.
Yes.
Even in the classrooms, we were taught as children that the teacher was always right, and we weren't very encouraged to raise our hands for questions. That sticks with us till adulthood, obviously.
It does.
Are there any other smaller strategies that you've used to overcome these certain?
See, one of the things I believe is in leadership development, which means each day, every single one of us is growing as a leader. So one of the other strategies I have is to ask a lot for feedback.
Oh, I see.
So when I say finish a meeting, when I'm finished something important, even when I finish this interview, I will ask you, what did I do well? What did I not do well? What could I have done better? What did I miss? So that's another technique by which you encourage yourself in particularly forums where you're expected to speak. At the end of the day, you take feedback from your peers, from other people who are your supporters.
I see.
So embrace feedback. Feedback is a gift, and you learn from everything.
Okay. So be bold. Dream big.
Yes.
Accept feedback, whether it's good or it's positive or negative.
Embrace it, all the time.
And how do you have to use that feedback to
improve yourself.
Improve yourself. I see. These are one of the few strategies that are taught within the organization, I understand.
we do quite a lot of work. So for example, I spoke about the leadership development program that we have for female talent. We have mentoring programs. Almost 400 of our senior female talent are going through mentoring, where senior men and women leaders give them advice on how to succeed. You know, when I visit the business, I mean, we're very fortunate. Unilever Thailand has great talent, both men and women.
Yes.
I would always make it a point to spend time with our talent and give them some tips and give them some encouragement on how to navigate the world. We also have many flexible policies to support women, because the other thing about Asian women, like perhaps women all over the world, is that we are expected to wear many hats. We have to be successful professionals, we have to be great wives, great daughters, great daughter-in-laws, great mothers. You've got to be this perfect superwoman of a woman. So what we try and do is provide a lot of flexible working policies, which we call agile working, for our men and women, so that they can balance all these needs to be great professionals and to be great people in their personal lives.
So it's not just about excelling within the office, within the workplace. You also have programs that teach your employees and your workforce to excel in other roles as well.
In other roles as well. Because we believe that when you are successful at balancing your life and work, you become more successful at work. If you're at work and constantly worrying about my unwell child or worrying about not doing something in your personal life, then you become less effective at work. So we believe that you must be given the tools to help balance your work and life, to integrate your work and life better.
Can I correctly summarize then that Unilever encourages a balanced life and doesn't really push for someone to become, let's say, like a workaholic perhaps, and just spend like 12 hours at the office endlessly and just give everything they have to their work?
See, we provide the policies and flexibility, and people do differently. I've seen, for example, some of the millennials who work for 20 hours continuously, but then might take a few hours off the next day or not come for a day or two to work as they balance. So we have to recognize that people work differently. So for me, for example, I like to go home at a reasonable time, say by 6:30, leave office, go home, spend 2 or 3 hours with my children, and then I get back to emails at 10 o'clock in the night so that I'm fully on top of my work. So what Unilever does is provide you the flexibility to work according to your rhythm and according to what is right for you.
It sounds like you've actually designed these various courses and initiatives to make sure that you have a very, very well-balanced environment within the workplace.
Yes, because this is very important for us. In fact, another program that might interest you is something that we call Unstereotype, where we encourage our employees to work through the stereotypes and biases. Reality is we are all biased.
Yes.
You might
unconsciously,
unconsciously,
or consciously,
and consciously.
Yes.
And we put, we run training for almost 30,000-40,000 of our employees, and want to do it for all 170,000 employees, where we encourage them to think, what is your bias? When you see a woman in the workplace, do you automatically assume, oh, we can't give her the tough jobs, how can she do it? When you see, when you see somebody who's disabled, what is the biases that come into your mind? So we encourage people to talk about their biases, face them, say, yes, you are biased. Can you rethink that? There's sometimes people who are biased, people from a different race, religion. So we run this Unstereotype program where we talk to all our employees saying, doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is, doesn't matter what your gender orientation is, doesn't matter what your race is, religion is. When you come to Unilever, we want you to come feeling that you can be yourself completely, that you don't, as a whole person. You don't have to come into Unilever feeling worried, I'm a member of the gay community, how will I be treated? Or, I am of a different religion, how will I be treated? We want each and every person in Unilever to come in feeling included, feeling that we are not biased, and that no matter what their background is, what their orientation is, they will feel in Unilever a safe and inclusive place. That's our dream.
That's your dream. Uniliver is a huge company. You operate in so many countries
and 190
continents around the world. Obviously, there must be cultural barriers that come into play when you're deciding upon promoting, whether it's male or female or a cross-gender person. How do you deal with the cultural barriers?
Oh, you know, every policy we think about, we have to think about what it means in the culture. And I'll give you a simple example. You know, something like I was talking about agile working out of home. Working out of home is very popular in Europe. Yes. Very popular in UK. People like to spend 1 day a week or 2 days a week working out of home, and they feel it makes them more productive.
Yes.
But it doesn't work in countries like Pakistan, India, where people stay with their in-laws. And they say, when I work out of home, my mother-in-law expects me to talk to her. How do I work out of home?
Okay.
Doesn't work in Japan, where people have smaller houses and they're saying, I don't want to put up a lot of office equipment in my house. So everything we think about, any policy we think about, we have to ensure that we're thinking about the cultural context while implementing it.
Yes,
so similarly, when we make appointments, we have what is a balanced slate policy, which is the slate must have equal number of male and female candidates before you make an appointment.
Wow.
So if you have 3 men on the list, you must have 3 women. If you have 3 women on the list, you must have 3 men.
Wow.
Or whatever the number. So balanced slates. That's how we ensure people give everybody an opportunity to be considered for the job.
I see.
And you have to tackle cultural barriers by constantly giving leaders feedback. You know, this is the last 10 appointments you made. Look at what the mix is. You seem to have appointed only 10 men, all from Europe. That's your track record. Is this conscious? Is this unconscious? How did this happen? So you have to constantly hold leaders accountable, give them feedback, so that they can do the right thing.
Now, particularly Asia, according to a recent study, we surprisingly promote more women in management roles than other counterparts in the world, especially Thailand, which is ranked above many other of our counterparts in Asia. How do you think that came about?
I'm also very pleased to read that research saying Thailand is setting the pace, is trailblazing in this part of the world.
Yes.
And it's really pleasing to see. I mean, our own business, Uniliver Thailand, 50% of our board, which is the senior most team that runs the business, are women. You know?
Yay!
So, and we have 4,000 employees and we have 46% women.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm really pleased to see that too. That's not true of every company, but it's very true of Uniliver Thailand. And I do think there is good things in your culture that work for you. For example, the qualities of collaboration and being collective is an important quality for the future. That is why your men and women are succeeding, because those qualities are being appreciated more. The quality of listening, of being humble, of being curious is again, I find, very prevalent in Thailand. Those are great qualities for the future. They may not have been valued 20 years ago, they're very valuable today. So I think there's something about your culture which is naturally quite inclusive and quite collaborative that is helping us create homegrown talent in Thai businesses. And I'm really proud of Uniliver Thailand for creating such a strong business with such a strong sense of inclusion.
A lot of our viewers, and I'm sure there will be younger women, children perhaps, teenagers watching you and seeing you as a role model for someone who has built her career in a multinational, worldwide corporation and become so successful. Tell us the obstacles that you've been through and how you've chosen to overcome them.
I can tell you, being the first woman at anything needs a bit of resilience, needs a bit of grit, and sometimes I jokingly say a bit of thick skin. and you can't take everything seriously. You have to laugh at yourself. So I can share so many stories, you know. So for example, when I joined Uniliver as a management trainee, I was one woman among, you know, I was like, there were 3 or 4 or 5 women in the business, not too many, and 15,000 men.
My goodness.
When I became the employee relations, the first woman to go to a factory, to become the employee relations person in a factory in South India.
And you chose to.
And I chose to.
You chose
I
to.
put my hand up saying, I want to go to a factory and I
Yes.
want to do the grassroots job. I was the only woman in the entire industrial estate. So in the morning, there would be a queue at our gate to have a look at me, of men from the industrial estate coming and seeing, who is this freak creature who is working in these factories? And, so, and I, you know, when I went to
That must have been daunting, though.
it was scary sometimes. That's why I
Yes.
say you need a little bit of thick skin. You need to laugh at yourself sometimes. And you need to recognize that when you are the first woman at anything, you're blazing a trail. People don't know enough about you. So you have to be knowledgeable. You have to be conscious that you have to educate others. So I would meet other men at the workplace who would say, why are you working? Is your husband not earning enough? They could not understand that a woman could be working just because she had dreams too.
Yes.
They would assume that either you had problems at home or your husband was not doing well, that's why you were working. So sometimes you have to educate others that this is my dream, this is my passion, this is why I do. I also,
Yes.
the first 3 jobs that I did were in 3 different factories, in production, in engineering, in employee relations. There was no loo in the factory for a woman.
Seriously?
So I
My
would start by
goodness.
first getting a loo constructed for me. But I made a joke out of it, and I used to tell my business, why don't you call all the loos Lena's loos? Because they were built for me. So some of these things you have to take in your stride. You have to be a little resilient. You have to make sure you have enough mentors who support you and give you advice. So you don't feel lonely because you're the only woman. You must reach out to enough people to get advice.
How did you become one of the guys? Forgive me for lack of a
Yes.
better term, but how do you become one of the guys, be part of the boys'
Yes.
club in such an industry?
I don't think I've always been part of a boys' club. You know, when I was early in my career and I had not proven myself still, I used to feel like I want to be a member of the boys' club. So I would try very hard. I would try to speak in a tough language. I would try to use more, you know, swearing words so that people, you know, think that I'm a member of the boys' club. But that was not me, you know. And I realized that as I became successful and I had a track record of performance, I relaxed a lot more. And I became myself, which was more feminine, which was just being who I am. So I'm someone who shows my feelings, as you can see.
Yes.
I'm someone who shares personal stories easily. And I don't want to stop that. I want to be myself. I want to be authentic. That's how we inspire everyone else to be authentic. So yes, there was pressure, but if you focus on performance and creating a track record, and you have 3, 4, 5 years of performance behind you, you become confident enough to be yourself.
So being resilient
Yes.
and making sure that you are yourself.
Yes.
And eventually, with time,
Yes.
with experience, you will become
More
one of the guys, but not necessarily a
in
guy.
the same way.
Yeah.
Yes. So you find your own coping methods. So for example, I could never wait every evening to have a drink at the pub or at the bar or what have you, because I had young children at home I needed to go to.
Yes.
I have 2 boys. But I had to network because I must know
Yes.
people, they must know what I'm capable of. So I found my own ways of networking. So in the office times, when I was working on a difficult project, I would reach out to the 5 or 6 or 7 men or women I wanted to speak to. And I would say, I'm so-and-so, I work in so-and-so department, I'm working on this tough project. Would you care to have a cup of coffee with me and explain your views on the subject?
I see.
And maybe 5 people would say yes, 3 people may not respond. Doesn't matter. I would meet those 5 people. And then they would realize that I was somebody who was talented, who had a point of view, and they would then become part of my network.
Okay.
So you find your own ways of building networks. You find your own ways of navigating through a world which is largely male, but is rapidly changing, certainly in Uniliver.
Yes. From what I've learned from our conversation, it seems as though that to be a successful woman, to be empowered, to be recognized
Yes.
in a global industry is to be confident, to be yourself, to dream big, to make sure that you are heard,
Yeah.
and to make sure that they take you seriously.
Yes.
With time. How much time exactly did it take you to become, let's say, a success in this particular company?
I would say, in every stint that you do, and every 2, 3, 4 years we do a new job, I would try very hard to leave a legacy behind. I would say, what am I going to do that nobody has tried before? What am I going to do that sets the benchmark for this industry? It doesn't matter if I'm young in the company or junior in the company. What difference can I make that will take this company forward? So I used to spend far more time worrying about my impact rather than worrying about when am I going to get my next promotion, when am I going to get my next salary raise. I would not worry about all of that. I would spend all my time thinking about how do I make a big difference, how do I have an impact, how do I take this company forward, how do I build a better business, how do I learn from others, how do I look at successful examples from outside and bring them to Unilever. So constantly doing that helped me be a success from the first role that I was doing. That does not mean you don't meet with failures. Of course you meet with failures, but you learn from those failures, you learn from those mistakes. You make new mistakes, don't repeat the old mistakes. That's how you build it.
Okay.
I have a couple more things for women, particularly from Asia. One is invest in yourself. I've seen that by the time we have become looked after our career, looked after our children, our husbands, and house responsibilities, we have no time to invest in ourselves. But we have to.
Make
we
time.
have to make time to get physically fit because we wear 3, 4, 5 hats. We have to ensure we have the energy. We have to make time to learn new skills, to see what's happening externally. We have to make time to be emotionally fit, to invest in our relationships that matter. So invest in yourself. Don't treat yourself as the last person in the world who needs attention. Treat yourself as the first person who needs attention and really invest in yourself.
That's very good advice.
And the other piece of advice is always make it easier for those who come after you. Because we are all trailblazing in some way.
Trailblazing.
We're all doing first woman something. Breaking the rules, breaking the glass ceiling, breaking glass floors. We have to make it easier for those who come after us.
Yes.
So if we found something difficult in the policy, we must change it when we have the chance. So make it easier for those who come after you.
คุณผู้ชมคะอย่างที่ได้คุยกับคุณลีน่ามาประมาณหนึ่งเวลาจริงๆแล้วน้อยมากมีเรื่องคุยอีกเยอะแต่ว่าจะเห็นได้ชัดนะคะว่าองค์กรนี้เป็นองค์กรที่ให้ความสำคัญต่อบทบาทของสุภาพสตรีความสำคัญที่องค์กรให้นั้นมันไม่สามารถที่จะเทียบเท่าความสำคัญที่เราให้กับตัวเองหรือว่าน้องผู้หญิงรุ่นใหม่ที่กำลังเติบโตพยายามที่จะก้าวหน้าในองค์กรของตัวเองให้ความสำคัญกับตัวเองมองคุณค่าของตัวเองพัฒนาตัวเองและกล้าที่จะแสดงออกความสามารถของตัวเองและด้วยประการเหล่านี้ละค่ะองค์กรก็พร้อมที่จะสนับสนุนให้สุภาพสตรีนั้นมีประสบความสำเร็จและก้าวหน้าในองค์กรนั้นได้ Thank you so much for your time today คุณลีน่าขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you very much.
Thank you และนี่ก็คือห้องข่าวธุรกิจสำหรับวันนี้นะคะแอมและทีมงานลาไปเพียงเท่านี้ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ Thank you so
Very good.
ยินดีค่ะยินดีค่ะ
Excellent. Thank you.
เอาเหรอได้พูดสรุปใหม่
Yes. On the conclusion.